Hey everybody, welcome back to the Connected channel. I'm Aaron Hurley. Thank you so much for joining me again. If you are like every other Christian, we all struggle with wanting to give up. We all have times of depression, and we all have times of feeling like, what in the world am I doing? Is it even worth it? Why is following Jesus so hard? Am I ever going to feel like I'm getting any traction? Am I ever going to feel like this is all worth it? Well, today that's what we're going to talk about coming up. Hey everybody, welcome back. Thank you for joining me for another episode of 5 Minutes for Your Faith. Today is episode 15, and our study today will be called Integrity Without Ceasing. And our focal passage will be 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58. And as always, I will put this up on the screen for you so that you can join along with me as we break it down. So let's read this together as it says. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your toil in the Lord is not in vain. So this is probably one of the most important scriptures for me personally. In the years that I have been in ministry, which has been about the last 15 years, it has been one of the most bedrock verses for me. When I've wanted to quit, when I've wanted to give up and leave the ministry completely, with all of the things that my family and I have gone through over the years, there have been times where I have literally been kicking and screaming, wanting to quit, and God has reminded me about what my calling has been using this verse. Be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your toil in the Lord is not in vain. So I'm not sure where you all are at, but I hope that today, if you are in a place where you want to quit, where you want to tell God, I'm going to go find something else to do, this isn't worth it. My prayer for you today is that this will be real for you, and that this would be an opportunity for you to allow God to speak with that still small voice and say to you, don't quit. Don't quit. Stay steadfast. Stay immovable. And I want to encourage you this morning with this passage. So let's break this down into a few parts, and the first one is this. Steadfast. To be steadfast means to be morally fixed, firm in purpose, resolute, not moving off course. Satan is always at work, attempting to find the weak point in your armor. And if you're not in the relationship with Jesus that you should be, if you are weak in the Word, if you're not in a prayer life where you are seeking God's power, seeking His strength, you are always going to fall flat on your face. Now, I'm not saying that the struggles that you're having is self-induced. It might be circumstantial. It may be completely outside of your control. But even if it's not self-induced, or if it is self-induced, where the circumstances that you find yourself in are making it difficult for you to stay on course, to stay morally fixed, to be resolute in your faith in Christ and follow Him no matter what, you have to make a choice today whether or not you're going to be God or whether He's going to be God. Whether or not you're going to surrender to Him or whether you are not going to surrender to Him. Because I said this yesterday, you cannot have God's peace. You cannot have His in-working power. You cannot have the resolution to follow Him in faith unless you give Him the control of your life. Regardless of the circumstance, whether it was by choice or not by choice, you are able to stay fixed and always resolute in your following Jesus. But you have to surrender control. Let's look at this next part, and that's this. Abounding. It's this idea to exceed the ordinary, surpassing measure, overflowing to cause to prosper. Especially that last phrase I just said, to cause to prosper. God indwells you if you're a child of God. And what He's telling you is this. If you are truly in a relationship with me, I have given you everything you need, every spiritual blessing in the indwelling of my Spirit. And when you see all these things going on in your life, you're either going to look at the waves and you're going to start being distracted by those things, or you're going to keep your eyes fixed on me and just trust me. I know you don't see everything. I know you don't understand everything. And frankly, I understand that you're angry. God understands that we struggle. God knows what it means to be human. Was He not human in every way that we are, yet without sin? He knows what it means to struggle. He knows what it means to feel pain, to suffer loss, to be alone. So He understands what it means to have to abound in the strength of God, because circumstances will just flatten us out, won't they? They will just leave us out to dry. But God won't. And so what I'm asking you today is to allow God to give you the supernatural, abounding faith today, to trust Him no matter what you're going through today, to give you the inworking of His Spirit in such a way where you can't deny the peace and the security that you have in Him in the face of circumstance. How in the world am I able to have peace right now? That's God working in your life. That's Him giving you the strength that you would never otherwise have. It's uncircumstantial peace. It is the ability to be able to trust Him and have joy, especially in the midst of whatever you might be going through today. So let's look at the third part, and that's this. Your toil. It's circumstantial trouble, labor, and fatigue, literally in the language to strike or hit with a blow. Maybe you feel like circumstances in your life right now have just struck you with a blow. You are just so blindsided, you didn't see it coming. Where in the world was God when this happened? He was right where He always has been, on His throne. And that's what we need to remember, is that God doesn't work like you work and I work. He doesn't think and act like you and I think. And so it's easy for us to be confused when circumstances come our way, but it's also easy for us to get angry. And who better or who more easily is it to be blaming than Him? God's the one who's all powerful and all loving. Why didn't He stop it? Why didn't He keep this from happening? Think of this COVID-19 outbreak, all the people who have died and lost their livelihood and all these things going on. There are a lot of people who are probably angry with God right now. And it's easy to be angry with God because the logical connection is He could have stopped it, He didn't, therefore He doesn't care. Obviously, that's what Satan would have you to believe. Allow it to humble you at the foot of the cross again. You can either run from God or you can run to God. Today, make the choice to run to God because you don't want to have to keep going through this spin cycle of discipline after discipline after discipline after problem, failing the spiritual test that has been put before you today. Let's look at this last part, and that's this. In vain. It means to be ineffective, profitless, foolish, or made void. What Satan would love for you to believe today is this, that everything that you have done, everything that you've been through is pointless. You've served Him, you've loved Him, you've been faithful to Him, and for what? Well, today, think of it this way. God has never failed you, has He? He's never left you nor forsaken you, has He? Think of it. Always reflect back on the love and faithfulness of God. See how He's been there for you when you're tempted to feel as if He hasn't been there for you. When you say, God, where were you when this happened? How come this is going on? You could have stopped this. Go back and think of all the things that could have been worse that happened to you. All of the things that could have been but weren't. Or all of the things that were so terrible in your life, but He brought you through that too, didn't He? So what I'm asking you today is reflect on the faithfulness of God. Reflect on the love and goodness of God as we look into this idea of being in vain. Nothing is in vain when it's in Christ. If it's built on the foundation of Christ, it's going to be to His glory and for your good. It's a Romans 8:28 type thing that He causes all things to work for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. That is a uncircumstantial, irregardless type promise. No matter what, God is working on your behalf. He is working in your favor, and He is always going to do what's best for you, even if it doesn't feel good at the time. Especially right now, maybe you're struggling with something where you're this close to walking away. Don't quit. Be steadfast, be immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your toil in the Lord, knowing that the circumstances and your problems are not in vain in the Lord. Thank you so much for joining me for 5 Minutes for Your Faith. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day.